Hello, I'm Jake Crawford, the Dawson County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to our latest edition of the Fuzz feed. Here with me today, I have Sergeant Wright. She is one of our investigators in CID, one of our supervisors in CID. So we're going to start today just kind of finding out a little bit about Sergeant Wright.
I started with the Dawson County Sheriff's Office in 2001 as a detention officer. After spending about a year or so in the jail, I was able to go to mandate, transfer to the patrol division, ran a K-9 for a couple of years, was able to promote to criminal investigations division, worked drug cases for about 12 years or so, and now I work within a group of people. We work crimes against persons, which can include like sexual assault, child molestations, domestic violence, that sort of thing.
I did not know that you ran a dog. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had Astor too.
Yeah? Did you like that dog?
Yeah, we were very close. I was able to keep Astor after he retired. He retired about the time that I moved to CID.
Was he an angry dog or not really?
No, he was pretty laid back. He was a German Shepherd. He had
Okay.
a very good demeanor.
Okay. Dogs are fun. I don't really want a canine, but I like dogs. Just not something I want to do with work. Okay, so just a little opinion. So I'm going to take a wild stab at it that CID has probably been the most enjoyable part of your time at Dawson County, or at least the part you like the best.
I liked all the divisions I've worked in at Dawson County. I enjoyed working in the jail. I mean, I think I learned a lot there about how to talk to people, how to, kind of deal with people and interact appropriately. I enjoyed patrol. I loved having Astor, and I really enjoy working in CID. Definitely been there the longest.
Right. Okay. So you worked drugs, so was that a lot of undercover stuff, narcotics work?
Some of it was undercover work. All of it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
To meet and interact with a lot of different people.
Would you go back to doing it again if you could?
I don't know.
You might be past that point.
I don't know.
Let's see. I think somebody told me you went to SWAT school too, didn't you? Did you go to SWAT school? Did you attend one?
Yes, I did. I went to SWAT school about the time that I got Astor, so about a million years ago.
Okay. A very storied career here at Dawson County Sheriff's Office. So the reason why we have Sergeant Wright here with us today, I'm probably just going to go ahead and call her Jen because it's a little comfortable just calling you Jen. We're neighbors. Not in the sense of where we live, but in a sense of where our offices are positioned. So we have a very neighborly relationship. So she hears me yelling on the phone. I hear her, calming people down and talking through stuff sometimes. Anyways, so Jen and I, we work in a close proximity, right, even though we're in different divisions. And we've brought her here today because of her knowledge in the field of crimes against persons. Where that bleeds over into this week's topic is the Safer Internet Day, right? So Safer Internet Day, what our goal is to honestly shock you and maybe open parents' eyes to the fact of the concern they need to have over the access that a smartphone gives their kids to some of the evils that are present today. We're not trying to make everybody run out and freak out and drive over all your kids' iPhones with your truck. Okay, that's not the goal here. But Sergeant Wright has a good bit of experience, and honestly not the best experience as far as some parents' awareness into what's going on with their kids and what their kids are being exposed to. Again, it's wonderful that the majority of the public out there today can live in a, I don't want to say utopic kind of mindset, right? But most people are looking for the good in other people. We don't want to have to see the bad in other people. And Sergeant Wright's job is pretty much just the opposite of that she has to look for the bad in people to help identify threats and take those threats off the street. So without further ado, let's kind of move into some of these topics, the dangers of social media. We'll start there.
Well, sometimes what we see with kids is they don't realize what a big world that the internet is. That they're meeting people not just locally, but with the internet they can meet people from other countries, other states, and in a sense, it's kind of like if you leave the internet open for your kids to do whatever they want on there, and there's no kind of limitations and there's no kind of checks and balances, it's kind of like dropping them off in downtown Atlanta on a Friday night and say, let me know when you want me to come pick you up. They meet a lot of strangers, people, the internet offers a lot of anonymity to predators, to criminals, and it makes it easy for them to, essentially become anything that they want to be, anybody they want to be. And, sometimes kids, they're not ready for the responsibility of having to do a threat assessment on somebody they think is 12 years old that they just met on the internet, and they're just innocently talking. But it turns out that 12-year-old is really a 45-year-old man, that lives in Alabama who's planning to come, pick your kids up to go to a movie. So you just kind of got to realize what a big world the internet is, and that social media is like the door to that world.
That's a excellent way to highlight it. I never thought about it in that aspect myself, right? That just that comparison kind of really does kind of speak to you. So we're talking about the dangers of it, right? So I guess the reality is that parents can't be disconnected from what their kids are viewing, right? And parents, we get it. There's all different kind of parents out there, and I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this is the right way to do it, that's not the right way to do it, right? I have 2 kids. I understand there's plenty of books on it, right? But there's no set manual that comes with it. It's a difficult thing to do, and I think you do try and carry that balance of trusting your kids, but then how much do you want to give them privacy? Do you not want to give them privacy? There probably is somewhat of a balance there, but I think the information that you're going to get from Jen today is going to highlight that there's a lot more at risk when you remove yourself from what they're viewing, what they're seeing, and the level of privacy you give them may result in exposure to some very dangerous things. So we move into the idea of parents monitoring. Are you aware of any kind of apps or anything like that would assist parents in that?
Yeah, we've learned a lot about Life 360. It's an application that you can install on your kid's phone, and it'll not only tell you what they're doing on social media, their text messages, but it'll tell you their location. If they're in a car, how fast is that car going? And at the end of the day, it's not about a lack of trust in your kids. It's really about your kids being whatever age they are and not knowing how to, basically sort of police themselves and knowing how to interact and how to address certain things on the internet. So, we've found that nothing really takes the place of having like the login information, the usernames to your kids' social media accounts, and being able to just log in at any time and see like who are they talking to, what are they talking about, what are people asking them to do, what are they involved in. It's it's kind of like the same reason that teachers and parents communicate. It's just to keep up to speed with what they're doing, like a progress report on their social media. But a lot of times parents and kids, neither one realize what they're getting into, and we see that a lot with reports that we take, and we see that a lot when kids are telling us that they were talking to somebody, it didn't seem quite right, but they sent them a picture, so it had to really be a 14-year-old girl, or it had to really be who they're talking to, because they don't realize all the possibilities that the internet also offers for criminals.
No, I agree, and I'm not the tech guy, and I'll be very upfront about that. I do know there are apps that kids can put on their phone that conceal, that it can help conceal, like if they have let's say your kid's not allowed to have Snapchat or TikTok or whatever, right? There's apps they can put on their phones that will hide all of that from you, and they can have those apps in there, and you may not know. And that's something that maybe we can tackle in a later episode and get some sort of technical expert, either get them on here or get some answers to all that. I do know that can be quite an issue. And if you're like me, I'm minimally knowledgeable on the technologies and different social medias, right? So knowing how to navigate Snapchat is not something I really versed in because I don't have one. So that's something we can definitely look at possibly bringing in here for those if you guys are curious about some of that stuff. Please just post questions and we'll try and answer those. What do you think the number one issue you see when you talk about, I want to zero in on the cell phones, and that's, I think, the days of kids having laptops, and maybe they have an iPad or they have a cell phone for the most part. I'm not saying they don't have them anymore, but I think the phones are probably the majority of what you see. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I guess what's the number one issue you could identify that with cell phones that brings them into your world that kids are doing, right? Is it the outside contact? Is it sharing of nude photographs? What do you think it is?
We do have a lot of sharing of nude photographs, and kids don't realize that they've sent one picture to one person and what can happen. They don't realize what could happen to that picture. They don't realize, oh well, I sent it over Snapchat, so it disappeared. But technology is getting more complex every day, and so there's certain apps now where you can screen capture things from Snapchat. You thought it disappeared, but it didn't. You didn't know it didn't. It didn't send you an alert that it was saved. But bullying is also a big thing with phones because when we were in school, if you were being bullied at school, when you went home at the end of the day, I mean, that was that. And, you're safe, you're at home. You don't have to pick that back up till tomorrow. But now, bullying is a 24/7 thing that can happen to kids. And you think they're asleep in their room, but they're on their phone. They're still reading these comments, and they're still reading the, text messages and messages in the apps about, just bullying. And so that leads to a lot of, distress, mental distress, and problems for kids.
Yeah, not to dive into too many rabbit holes at once, right? But I think we both can probably speak to the fact child suicides are through the roof. So I think suicides in general are. I didn't work a lot of suicides when I first got into law enforcement. I worked down on the south end of Fulton County. Since returning to law enforcement up here, worked a lot more, and we deal with a lot of successful suicides, attempted suicides, and suicidal threats with juveniles. And I can't help but feel that it links back to the phones, whether it's the bullying, and there's a whole other rabbit hole to go down as far as the instant gratification you get from the touchscreen phones. And there's studies and stuff that talk about the release of dopamine in your brain when that phone dings and you get a text message or, ding, I got a like on this social media post. So again, we can go down a whole rabbit hole on that, but yeah, that's a good point. The bullying, it doesn't stop when you get home. It continues. It can be relentless. So I think I've heard some murmurings and some of inadvertent mishandling, right, of certain things when parents do, let's say, find naked pictures on the phone of their child, right? And it could be naked pictures of one of their little boyfriends or one of their friends or whatever. I think maybe a mistake that can be made is then the parent then sends that picture to whether it's that juvenile's parents to say, hey, look what your kid sent my kid, right? Can you explain what some of the issues with doing that are?
Well, the sexual exploitation of children code section applies to all kids that are under the age of 18. So it's illegal to possess or disseminate or manufacture pictures that are sexually exploiting children, whether it's your own child or another child that you know. So if you find pictures on your child's phone, even of your child, you got to ask the question why that's there. What was your child planning to do with that picture? We try to get involved. We try to help people. We're not trying to arrest kids for being kids or making bad decisions or being inquisitive like kids are. But we can, obviously we can send somebody or we can meet with you. We can help you remove that from the device or kind of figure out what to do with it. But absolutely sending it to anyone else, including the sheriff's office, is not the right thing to do with that kind of material.
Right. We understand when people are trying to tackle problems that come at them and they're shocking. So definitely, like Jen said, don't go submitting that to anybody else, because essentially you're still transmitting it. And again, sheriff's office is not going to come after you with everything we have because you're trying to figure out how to parent through this. And obviously, if you have pictures of your kid, in the bathtub as a juvenile, well, if they're 16, maybe we're going to get some issues. But if they're 3, 4, 5 years old, got you. We're not worried about that, right? We can put a little common sense behind this stuff. That's understandable, right? But yeah, so if you find naked pictures on your kid's phone, please reach out to us. Don't think that we're going to start prosecuting everybody involved, anything like that. But the people who work in our crimes against persons section of CID definitely can assist in trying to get some help and trying to deal with that. So let's see. We talked about that. Sextortion. What is that?
Well, so recently, it seems like recently, but I'm sure it's been going on for a while. We've had a kind of influx of people sending naked pictures or explicit pictures to other people, and they may think that they know the person. They may be posing as someone they think they know. It may be something where they've met someone online dating and they've started chatting, and once those pictures are sent, the recipient then begins to blackmail the sender, saying that they'll send these pictures to family or friends or post them publicly on social media sites if that person doesn't pay a sum of money or do whatever it is that this person demands. And so, the thing to kind of understand is once your pictures are out there, they're out there. You can't reach out and grab those back. They're not, it's not like when we showed people pictures, Polaroids. It's, once it's out there in the internet, there's no getting that back. And, paying them money is not going to get that picture back. And so before you send anything, and, that's not just kids, that's adults too. Before you send things, you got to assess what's going to happen if I don't get this back, because essentially nothing is safe once it's on the internet.
No, I agree. Kind of a funny story. For me it was, probably not for the guy. We responded to a call. This is an adult male. And he called us. He said, "Man, I don't know what else to do." He had been doing a video chat with a lady. It turned into this over video sexual-ish encounter. She took her clothes off. He took his clothes off. He performed certain acts in front of the camera. And then she hit him with a follow-up message that says, "I've been recording you. There was a 5-year-old present in this room. You just exposed yourself in front of a juvenile or 5-year-old kid. I want you to send me money." Well, luckily enough, this guy had just got out of a correctional facility, really didn't have any money to speak of. The web address was God knows where, probably not even in the U.S., right? So they had already shared it to a picture to social media for his friends to see. But yeah, that's just an example of how it went bad. The guy thought he's having a semi-intimate moment on video chat with somebody who is a stranger. What could go wrong? And it turned around with him being posted on his own social media naked, and his friends responding back going, "Bro, what are you doing?" So, again, kind of a somewhat funny story for us, but probably not so much for him. I don't know. So, bad idea. Adults, kids, yeah, it'll come back to bite you. Okay. So if we're talking about those people, so that person, that was probably, I guess, an example of sextortion, right? So we're talking about bad people on the internet. Why don't we go ahead and discuss predators, sexual predators that are out there? You know, what kind of things are we seeing in this area, if you will?
Well, one major thing that has come up, and it comes up periodically, is that, like we said earlier, you can be anybody you want to be on the internet. And your kids can also be anybody they want to be on the internet. So, you have some children who are saying that they're 18, 19 years old. They may be sending pictures of themselves or of someone else. It's not even them, not even someone they know. But predators will travel. They will travel from other states. They will travel from other counties. And, we've had kids in our county, in our community, who have been picked up by strangers. And, sometimes these people have said, well, I thought she was 19. She said she was 19. I thought her name was something else. Sometimes these people know that they're traveling to pick up a 13-year-old little girl. Maybe 13-year-old little girl thought she was meeting a 15 or 16-year-old boy, but it's a 32-year-old man. And that kind of thing happens, and it happens here. It's not just something that, happens on TV or happens in Atlanta or in big cities. So it's something that, it's imperative that you monitor who your children are talking to, because we don't really live in the same community anymore where everybody knows everybody and everybody's parents went to school with, the parents of their kids. And so these dangers are really coming into our community and our town, and the children here are, in danger, and they don't know that. They don't process that kind of real danger. So it's just really important that you talk to your kids, make them aware of these dangers, and check on them. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that says I don't trust you just because you're going and checking on them. It's like when you tell them to clean their room and you go see, did they do it? It's part of parenting. And, I think it's a responsibility that, parents have to monitor their children's internet activity.
Yeah. No, I think that's all really good information. It's kind of scary. You used to sometimes you couldn't, right? Picking people out, right? What was the stranger danger thing they did? I think back in the 80s, right? And it was always the shady looking dude with a trench coat or whatever. And, they've talked about in law enforcement, that was one of the biggest failed crime prevention campaigns ever. Because so often these predators and these people, they're not some shady looking person. They're not always just creeping around in a van giving out candy or whatever, right? They're people that work their way into parents and communities' trust. A story I shared with Jen earlier was growing up, I was in a kind of like a Boy Scouting. It's called Explorers. It was a program for it was a branch of the Boy Scouts, but it really was. They had them for police. They had them for fire department and some other things. So this was a fire department one. There was a guy who ran it for, I don't know, probably close to 10 years. And people used to always say, something's off. Something's weird. Something's off, right? And questions would occasionally come up, but, they never, I don't think it was ever directly attacked with this guy, if that makes sense. And, I remember we were doing a little station sleepover exercise thing going on. And I remember this guy being like, hey, remember it was just me and him in the room. He'd talk about, hey, remember, we've talked about wrestling. In my little head, I'm thinking, well, first of all, no, we've never talked about wrestling. And, no, and I'd been sick or something at the time. I was like, oh, I don't think it's a good idea. Right. And then he had there was a fire department pager that got passed around the Explorers. And Eddie always kept the charger at his house, so you had to drop off the thing there. And I remember riding my bike, me and a buddy riding our bikes over there and bringing the pager. And, here it needs to be charged, it's dead. And he's like, well, you guys can come in. And I remember, I'm good. And, we went about our business. And it wasn't till it would have been 2002 when I had joined the Air Force. and I was going through schooling through our tech school, and I have an identical twin brother, and he called me. He's like, "Hey man, guess who just got his door kicked in by the sheriff's office SWAT team?" I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Eddie." And I was like, "Oh." And apparently this guy, he had a freaking library of his exploits, his molestation, right? I mean, absolutely tragic. I remember there was one guy who was a volunteer, very involved, a super good guy with the fire department, one of his boys. He had to watch the video of his son being molested. And you want to talk about going gray overnight. I mean, that guy had a brownish colored hair, and then the next time I saw him, he was dang near white haired. So I think my takeaway from that was, all these people had these reservations about stuff. There was that sixth sense, whatever was going off in people's heads, and people didn't, for whatever reason, whether it's, polite society, don't want to be wrong about it, people didn't charge forward with that, and it took that long for it to come out. So, yeah, I mean, and I don't, to this day, I don't know what the number of boys that in that program that were molested were. So I don't know. I went off on that story. I don't know what you want to add to that.
Probably those victims felt a lot like, this has been said to me before, and I'd never thought of it this way, but I've had a person say to me, had this not happened to me, I would have never believed that person would have done this. And so, it felt like that there's two groups of people. There's the victims that have suffered through certain things, and then there's the rest of the people who think that this offender's the best person in the world. And I don't think that's really unusual, because people who commit these kind of crimes, they go to great lengths to hide them and to cover them up, and they master the art of causing people to trust them and like them. And so, one of the things that, I made a statement recently, you stop trusting the people we consider trusted people. And if you feel that red flag, you something's not right, something's off, I mean, it's okay to tell somebody that. And kids need to feel like they can say, listen, I know that, Johnny here has been our family friend for, my entire life, and he's like an uncle, but this happened, or something's making me uncomfortable. And, to create an environment where your kids feel like they can come and tell you that something's off.
No, that's great advice. And understand it's almost like for these predators, the effect is like they throw a rock in a pond and you watch the ripples just keep going, right? They're that initial rock in the pond, but the effects of these things that they do continue. And it sometimes continues with the victim, especially if there's not, I think, adequate intervention and help, right? And support. It's learned behavior, and it can continue. So it's pretty tragic. It's been a little bit lower beat podcast than I'm used to, but it's super important to talk about this. And we started out in the beginning talking about our kind of goal here is to shock you and open your eyes, and we're not trying to turn everybody into the paranoid parent, right? It's like I don't know. It's kind of like if people that are preparing, preppers, right? Are you going to be the guy on top of the mountain with all the food and everything? Because everybody's going to think you're really weird, right? But also, if you're this person who never prepares for anything and something does go wrong, you have to find that place, that happy medium where you are being aware, you are being somewhat skeptical. I mean, it's okay to trust people. It's okay to let your kids sleep over at other people's houses. We're not saying don't do that. We're just saying maybe it's trust but verify. Maybe that's where we're trying to go with it. Don't just have blind faith and trust in people that there's no evil in them, right? Because the ones that are truly evil, you're not going to know it probably. I mean, I think that's the reality, right? BTK killer, he was a deacon in the church, right? So our kids are some of our most valuable assets. Let's not just wholesale trust them with whoever, right? And let's make sure we're putting safeguards in place.
And yeah, we're not saying the kids aren't the bad guys. I mean, checking up on your kid doesn't mean they're a bad kid. I mean, it's just like when you go out, on a Friday night, you leave your teenager at home and you say don't have a party or don't have friends over. Well, if you wouldn't want them at your house, you shouldn't want them on their phones. And so, that kind of communication can kind of just lead to other places. And but the kids aren't the bad guys. These predators are the bad guys, and they're the ones who need to be held accountable. But we just have to look out and protect the children and make sure that they're making good decisions and help them understand how to make those decisions. And then, they become more receptive and understanding that you're trying to protect them. You're not trying to, a lot of people use the term helicopter parent, I guess, and they don't want to be a helicopter parent. They want their kids to have all this freedom, and that's good until it comes to their safety. And just, I think it's just as important to make sure they're safe on their phones as it is to make sure they're safe when they start driving or they're getting in cars with other kids or other people. And so, we're not trying to say that you need to criminalize your children because they're curious. They're naturally curious. They see something pop up on their phone. Oh, what's that? I mean, even as adults, we do that. So it's not hard to accidentally end up somewhere you didn't need or mean to be, when you're just kind of exploring on the internet. So it's just kind of like make sure they have the information they need going into that to make good decisions, and then just kind of double check them and make sure that they're safeguarded against this kind of thing.
Great advice. Jen, I really appreciate you coming on here today. I know you're super excited about this. Thank you for sharing some of your experience and expertise with us on this. If you guys have any more questions, if you want more information on stuff, post questions up on the Fuzz feed. I guess that would be the way to call it. I don't know. Make your comments below. Throw questions in there. Whatever. If you guys need more information on some stuff, we can have Jen come back. So yeah. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and watching, and hope you got something. I might say hope you enjoyed it, because this is not really an enjoyable topic, but I hope you get something out of this episode of the Fuzz Feed. Thanks for watching.